All right, Yishai Fleischer here, sitting in the car, thinking about Prime Minister Netanyahu. I have to say that I was critical at the beginning of the war because Prime Minister Netanyahu did not make it clear that Israel would control Gaza, would rule Gaza, govern Gaza. It did not make it clear that we really had zero tolerance policy for jihad to control that piece of land. I was concerned that Hamas would be allowed to stay and that Israel would not control it, govern it, settle it, that piece of land. And indeed, that has come to fruition. Right now, the idea that they're banting around President Trump, together with Witkoff, Kushner, and our own Netanyahu and his Dermer, right, his minister for these things who just left, what are they contemplating? They're contemplating creating an army base and bringing international forces into Israel to govern Gaza. Who are these international forces? Mostly Egypt, with a little bit of Turkey, Qatar maybe. We're talking about the very people who helped create October 7th, Egypt, by allowing the tunnels through the Sinai, through Rafah and into Gaza. We're talking about Turkey, who is a Hamas, implacable Hamas supporter. We're talking about Qatar, funder of Hamas. These guys are going to watch Gaza. These guys are going to make sure it's going to work out. And how many times are we going to have international forces try to defend something in this land and not fail? We did it in Lebanon. Remember UNIFIL in Lebanon? I dealt with UNIFIL, with Hezbollah. Guess what? UNIFIL, the UN, was aligned with the Hezbollah. And what about UNRWA in Gaza? Who are they aligned with? What about TIF in Hebron? All these international forces ended up aiding and abetting the enemies of Israel. And this is pretty simple because when you bring in your enemies that aid your enemies, they continue to help your enemies. See? You see? It's pretty simple, right? And so we're looking at a situation which is really catastrophic. I want to also give you a little sense about how deep the catastrophe is. I speak to soldiers in Hebron. I say, how are you doing? And I could see that there's a little bit of sadness in them. And I say, did you fight in Gaza? They're like, yes, because we have paratroopers now. They're like, yes, we fought. Did you lose anybody? Yes, we lost our commander. We lost this, that. But you could see that they can't finish off by saying, but we smashed them and we liberated that land. And there's no longer one Hamas member in our land. And all the jihadists in this whole region know that you don't mess with Israel. That's what they want to say. But they can't say it because the Hamas are still in Gaza, and now we're going to bring some fancy international force, and they're going to contemplate building a base for $500 million. They're going to bring in the Turks and bring in the Qataris and bring in the Egyptians. What are you going to get in the end? Nothing. Zippo. Nada. You're not going to get a darn thing. Garnished. Okay, you're not going to get anything except for passing the buck and pushing it down the road again. All that you're seeing right now is our kids having to fight, or our kids' having to fight again in Gaza with the same people. How stupid can you be? How many times can you do the same thing? And all of it comes from one basic sickness: not wanting to be big, not wanting to control. This is not just a Netanyahu sickness. Sometimes I think that Netanyahu is better than his generals and people that are, progressive and all that color of weakness that occupy the upper echelons of Israel's elite in the army, in the Supreme Court, in the academia. Sometimes I think he's better than them. But then other times I'm like, are you joking, man? Is this how you think that you're going to get respect? Now let's talk for a second about President Trump. President Trump, what did he want? You know what? Let's not talk about what he wanted for a second. Let's talk about who does he like today? Erdogan, Jolani. Why does he like them? Because they're strong. Because they're strong. Because they want to be big. They don't want to be little. They want to be big. They want to rule land. They want to be bigger. They say, don't worry, we'll take care of it. We'll take care of all the bad guys around here. We'll clean it up. We'll be big. They give off that posture. And Trump says, I think I recognize that posture. That's like me. I like that. I like people like that. I like people who are strong. You think that Netanyahu looks like Jolani or looks like Erdogan? You think we're giving off that posture of Erdogan? You think that J.D. Vance would have had the chutzpah, the audacity to speak about Israel the way he spoke and when he was on the tarmac there if we had an Erdogan at our helm? You bet they wouldn't, because they'd be afraid, because they know that Erdogan don't take no guff. They know that he's going to push back against anybody saying something about his government or his country. He'd cut off trade in a second. He's done it many times with Israel. He's just, boom. He's like, don't mess with me. I'm here to hold on to this land. I'm here to be big. And that's what Trump respects. Now instead, we got these American Jews, Qatari paid American Jews, who they're now working on policy for Israel. They're the ones that are helping create an international force to guard this little sandbox called Gaza. What a joke. What a joke. What are you thinking? What an embarrassment. We came through October 7th to lose our sovereignty, to bring in foreign troops to govern this sandbox called Gaza filled with terrorists who hate us. That's how we're finishing this war. That's what we're going to tell our soldiers. That's what I'm going to tell my son. I think you should go to the army and be a strong soldier. So what? We could do sissy policy down the line? So your friends and you could give up your life for bringing foreign troops on this land to govern the jihad? And what do you think the jihadists are thinking? They're like, this is a sissy state we're dealing with. Yeah, sometimes they get angry, they destroy houses, but they don't take it all the way. As my wife Malka said, it's like we beat cancer 80%. We got rid of 80% of the cancer. 20% is left, and it's coming back with a vengeance. And so, Prime Minister Netanyahu, you know, I could be like the other guys and enumerate all of his successes against Iran and the beepers and all that stuff. And there's truth to that. Yes, there's a side to that that's true. I don't deny it. But for a man who helped money pass from Qatar to Hamas, for a man who returned 1,000 terrorists for one Gilad Shalit and just did that again, for a man who allowed Hamas to build up a terror infrastructure and tunnels underneath the nose of this country, to now take it again, and instead of fixing that and doing what we call in Hebrew a tikkun, fixing all those sins, and instead allowing foreign troops to come and govern our Gaza and allow Hamas to continue to rebuild. And by the way, who's rebuilding? Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran. They're all on the warpath. Every single one of them is on the warpath because Netanyahu's whole thinking is, I mowed the lawn and the ghetto is safe for another few years. That's the whole way of thinking. And it's sad, it's pathetic, it costs lives. And around the world, why do you think there's so much Israel hate? Because we look like sissies and ninnies. And remember the old garbage bag commercial, wimpy, wimpy, wimpy. Well, instead you gotta be hefty, hefty, hefty. That's the only way around here. That's the Middle East. It's sad that our own leaders don't understand the Middle East. Jolani's throwing three-pointers in Washington, D.C., and everybody loves this guy. He's a thug. He's a criminal. He's a jihadi. He's Al-Qaeda. He's ISIS. But they love him because he's strong. Israel, let's go. Wake up. Time to be strong. Time to stop doing stupid things. Netanyahu, do yourself a favor and give yourself a legacy of strength and not a legacy of pathetic weakness, giving up our sovereignty to our enemies. Please, let's protect our children. This is not in theory. Okay, I live in an area not far away from here. Our Arab villages, they're going to succumb to jihadism, just like America's succumbing to jihadism. Okay, we got to push back on these guys. And white gloves and niceness is just not going to do it. It's not the way it's going to work. All right, folks, if you agree with me, let me know in the comment section. Please comment, like, subscribe, become a member, check out our web store, and don't forget to fight for Israel, not be sissy for Israel, fight for Israel. Oh, my wife said to use the word wimpy. Wimpy for Israel. Don't be wimpy for Israel. Fight for Israel. Fightforisrael.org and buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. I'm giving you a blessing. The blessing is for seeing the light, but also having the strength. And here's the magic sauce. Here's the secret sauce. Here it is. Fight with strength, and then thank God for it. Give God the honor. That's all you have to do. Fight with strength. Destroy your enemies. People will like you. People will respect you. The Arabs will thank you. The Arabs will honor you because they'll be like, I recognize that. And then give the blessings to Allah. Say thank you, God, for the strength that you have given us. That's the Jewish formula. That's what we need to do. God bless you guys wherever you are. Lots of love and shalom.